This week, you're going to be focusing on the philosophical foundations of education in the United States. So let's begin by talking about what is an educational philosophy. Essentially, it is your beliefs and values that are going to serve as the foundation for your practice. So what do you hold to be true about teaching and learning and our students? What does it mean to even learn? What should you be teaching? How is learning going to take place in your classroom? What are your teaching goals and aspirations for your students? These are all questions that you should be thinking about when you're forming your philosophy of education statement. Now, I'm not going to be asking you to write a formal philosophy of education statement in this class. For those of you that go on and take EDU 187, that is going to be one of your major assignments. So all of your work that you do this week, please make sure that you save it, because even if you don't take EDU 187, in the future in your education courses, you will be writing a philosophy of education statement. But I am going to start you this week thinking about those type of questions. Now, in your reading this week, you are going to learn about 5 major philosophies of education. You notice I have 6 here on this chart because I included behaviorism, because that is one that you're probably going to learn about in the future. But I wanted to give you this chart here to give you kind of an overview, a side-by-side comparison of these philosophies of education. And then you're going to be doing more of a deep dive this week in your reading. So let's just run through them real quick. Essentialism is this philosophy that our students need to learn these fundamental basic skills in reading and math and science that are needed for a practical life. It's a teacher-centered philosophy, meaning that teachers are viewed as the authority figure. I'm going to give you this information, this essential skills, and you're going to learn it. Perennialism is another teacher-centered philosophy, but it's really focused on students learning from these great works of literature or this classical knowledge that remains relevant over time. Behaviorism, still teacher-centered, so our top 3 there philosophies are all teacher-centered. So behaviorism, you may have heard of Pavlov's dogs, especially if you've taken a psychology class, but this is learning as a result of an external stimuli. So it's basically saying that behavior or learning can be conditioned over time. So again, teacher is the authority figure, the controller of the environment. So if a student gets something right, for example, a question right, then you give them some type of positive reinforcement. So by giving that positive reinforcement, they're going to learn that that is the right answer, this is what we need to do. Or if they get it wrong, you give some kind of negative reinforcement. And then the bottom 3 philosophies there are all what we call student-centered philosophies. So progressivism, which we learned about John Dewey last week, and Piaget is another one that are key figures. This is learning through experiential learning. So critical thinking, problem solving, getting together as a group and exploring your learning. Teachers are considered to be the facilitator. So we're not the ones, lecture. It's not a lecture-based approach. We're the facilitator of learning. Learning is more hands-on and active. Social reconstructivism is education that is used to address social inequalities, and education is used to promote a better society. Again, a teacher is more or less a facilitator. We're encouraging those critical thinking conversations, social engagement. Learning really involves societal issues and social justice. Existentialism is really, again, it is student-centered, but a teacher then provides opportunities for choice and reflection, and students are encouraged to find the meaning behind their learning. Learning is very self-directed, it's based upon the individual's experiences. So hopefully this gives you just an overview of these different philosophies. Again, you're going to be doing a deep dive in your reading. You're also going to be doing a deep dive in your assignment for this week. So let's talk about your assignments for this week. The first thing I want you to do is read chapter 8. It is a relatively short chapter. I do want you to keep in mind this is a very brief overview of these philosophies. In reality, you could spend a whole semester discussing philosophy of education, but chapter 8 is going to give you a brief overview. Your next assignment is My Philosophy Tree Journal. So if you noticed in your reading, they discuss a lot about philosophy trees. Essentially, this is the beginning thinkings of a philosophy of education statement. So I want you to take the inventory, where do I stand, that's found in the beginning of chapter 8. This is really going to give you an idea of which philosophy do your beliefs most align. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to be a perfect fit, but of those 5 that are found in your text this week, which one do your beliefs, again, most align? And then based on your results, I want you to fill out what would be your philosophy tree. I don't mean for you to draw it, but you're going to write out, what would be your anchor philosophy. Then what would be your beliefs about the role of a teacher in the classroom? What is the role of the students? The learning environment, how does learning take place? What curriculum should be taught, and what should instruction look like? Your total answer should be at least 300 words. This is not a full essay on your philosophy of education, but it's a short statement that is just going to get you started. Again, make sure you save this because you will be writing this statement in the future, and I'm sure you're going to want to reference this. Now, the second assignment is a 2-week assignment. It is not going to be due this week, but I'm going ahead and giving it to you because this is not something you want to start at the last minute. This philosophical reflection paper is going to be 10% of your grade in this class. You're going to choose one of those educational philosophies discussed this week in your reading. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be the one that you match with, but it probably should be. But pick one, and then you're going to write a 3 to 4 page paper that is going to address the origins, the historical context of this philosophy, the major historical figures, what are the core principles, how the philosophy has shaped educational approaches over time, how the principles are applied in today's classroom, and then finally at the end a reflection on how your beliefs align with the philosophy. So again, 3 to 4 pages in length, not including your reference page. You can use Times New Roman or Arial, size 12, double spaced, 1-inch margins, and it should be an APA style 7th edition. You are required to find 3 scholarly sources outside of your textbook. I would suggest going through NC Live, which is found on our library's webpage. That is probably the easiest way to find scholarly sources. Also, too, I would also suggest turning your paper in through NetTutor. You have to give NetTutor 48 hours to review your paper, but NetTutor is found on the homepage of all of your courses, but it's found on the homepage of ours. Turn your paper in, give them 48 hours to go through and make suggested edits. You will be turning this paper in through CopyLeaks. You'll be turning it in next week, not this week. And CopyLeaks is going to be used to check for plagiarism and use of artificial intelligence. So make sure if you're pulling statements from, your scholarly source, make sure you're given a citation there, because I will be checking for that. There is a rubric located here. Before you get started with writing your paper, I would suggest printing that rubric out, having it out while you're writing so you know how I'm going to be grading this paper. Again, that's not going to be due until next week, so there's no place to turn it in this week. If you have any questions about your assignments, please just let me know.